Is this on? Yeah, you're on. Hello?
You are live.
Welcome to the regular meeting of the Brisbane Planning Commission. This is Thursday, June 13th, 2013. Call to order.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Present.
Commissioner Doe.
Present.
Commissioner Munier. Here. Commissioner Parker.
Here.
Commissioner Reinhardt.
Here.
And now I'd like to make it, is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Anyone?
A motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think there is a typo error on D. It says approval of draft action of minutes, or should that be action minutes of January? Draft action of minutes.
Which one?
Which
Are you
one?
looking at?
Oh, that's okay, it's okay.
Okay. So we have three draft action minutes. So let's look first at January 24th, the regular meeting.
I have a couple edits, if that's okay.
Okay.
So on the first page, I think there should be a B under oral communications, line 3. There probably should be a can be forwarded.
Okay.
And on the last page, adjournment, there being no further business, shouldn't there be a motion and a seconded there by the person who motioned and who seconded?
That particular night, I didn't hear a motion and second. It was just by consent.
So there being no further business, the meeting was adjourned, right? Or
Yes.
the commission adjourned to the meeting of?
The commission adjourned.
Yeah, the commission adjourned to the meeting of February 14, 2013. Thank you.
Any additions or changes from anyone else? None.
No.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll motion to move to adopt the minutes of, which one is that? January 24th, 2013.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I was absent.
Aye. Okay. So, Commissioner Munier was absent January 24th, 2013. Second, the February 28th, 2013 regular meeting. Any changes or additions?
No, here.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll motion to adopt the minutes of February 28th, 2013.
Anyone want a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Approval of the draft action minutes of March 14th, 2013 regular meeting. Any modifications or changes?
None here, I was absent.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion to approve them?
I make a motion to approve the action minutes of March 14, 2013.
Is there a second?
I actually was sick, so I was absent, so I can't.
Same, yeah.
I'm waiting for connection to the internet, so I can't.
Okay, I will second. So I suppose we should wait,
Okay.
since we don't have a quorum on that. What do you think?
Pardon me?
You can continue it to the later in the agenda if you want to move on with other business.
But on March 14th meeting, there were three of us already, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we can approve that, right?
I can't see it, so I can't read it.
Or you can see it, you can read
That's my
it.
problem.
Okay,
Thanks.
Okay, at this time, if there's anyone from the audience who would like to come up forward for oral communications, No one? All right. So for,
We have this guy.
that's for this other part.
Okay.
Okay, so, and written communications, we have something from the Indicators for Sustainable San Mateo County, Small Towns and Rural Places, and Western City. And that seems to be it. Today.
I take my computer. I can't put it on.
Okay, okay.
All right. And you have your papers now?
We just take off from there of the action minutes.
All right, moving on to new business. Public hearing 120 to 126 Old County Road Use Permit UP 1-13. Proposal to establish a place of worship totaling approximately 3,408 square feet within the existing Brisbane Village Shopping Center. The applicant is Billy Lasmana for Bethel Church, California, and the owner is United Angs Limited Partnership Ltd. Assessor parcel number 005212110. Sam?
Yes, thank you. Bethel Church, California requests approval of the use permit application for a place of worship. The use would occupy approximately 3,400 square feet of the first floor in the corner of the Brisbane Village Shopping Center. This is behind the staircase and elevator there. It would include conversion of 2 retail spaces to worship, place of worship. The total floor area of the shopping center is approximately 30,600 square feet, and this use would occupy approximately 11% of that leasable space. The church proposes to relocate its existing South San Francisco congregation, which includes approximately 70 members. The congregation currently shares a facility with 2 other churches. The church anticipates that once they grow to approximately 100 members, they would split to 2 worship times. The proposed hours are weekends and evenings, except office hours on the weekdays. An outline of those proposed hours and services is in your agenda report.
Any questions?
Oh, sorry. I'm catching my breath.
Oh, all right.
Running around tonight. I could stop there if so places of worship is allowed by use permit. There's 2 required findings for a use permit. First, that the commission give regard to the nature and condition of adjacent uses, also consistency with the general plan. The second is that they determine whether the use would be detrimental to the health, safety, comfort, general welfare of the persons residing or working in the neighborhood, also to the property and improvements in the area, and the general welfare of the city. The use does comply with both of these findings. It's consistent with the general plan, which includes public and semi-public facilities for this district, for this sub-area. Also, Policy 12 of the general plan states establish a mix of land uses that best serves the needs of the community, which this would do by providing an alternative place for worship. Regarding beneficial or detrimental effects, it would not have any detrimental effects. The proposed use would be beneficial for the shopping center as a whole. It would provide a revenue for the owners there and fill a vacant space, a long vacant space, and it would not occupy the prime retail space on the ends that are more visible, but would be tucked back behind the elevator. The current and anticipated future uses in the shopping center are not anticipated to conflict with the church. The primary hours of the church would be Sunday, and to a lesser degree, Friday evenings and Saturdays, with minimal usage on the weekdays where staff is present. In contrast, to the rest of the shopping center uses, or the majority, weekday lunch hours are the key business hours for the existing uses, which include primarily restaurant traffic at lunchtime. The primary concern would be whether there was adequate parking for all uses, and conflicts with this use are not anticipated. And there was a table provided in the staff report that details some parking counts and analysis there. The application was submitted to the various city departments. The building department and fire department requested a condition of approval number 2, which would require a building permit to bring the 2 units into compliance for this use, essentially changing the existing use from retail to an assembly use. Also, while the church has proposed hours, staff has included condition of approval 3, which would allow them a little bit more flexibility in their uses. With churches, oftentimes they might want to add maybe a weekday evening meeting, or once they split to second service, it gives them flexibility in that. So in closing, staff recommends approval of the use permit UP 1-13, via resolution 113, containing the findings and conditions of approval.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chairman, I have to recuse myself within the 500 feet rule.
Okay. Any questions for staff at this time?
Evelyn?
I have one question. When you reviewed this application, did you talk to the applicant to see what are their future plans in terms of the multiple use of this particular facility? For example, sometimes the churches and places of worship, they include the ceremonies for birthdays and stuff like that. Some church members get into that. So would that be a possibility that they will have that in future, which can impact the use of that?
Yes, I did ask them about that, and I did not receive any further details regarding those other types of uses. I think it'd be a good question for the applicant. And I think there's some that the schedule gives them some flexibility.
Yeah, but I think we should put a condition here that any of those type of, the functions and stuff like that require the further review of this or at least approval from the staff, so that you can be prepared for additional traffic and all that. And I don't know whether they will have any cooking facilities or not at that premises. If that's the case, then that has to be addressed also.
Yes, so
The kitchen and all that area.
I could see adding a condition that they notify staff of any unusual events, so we could do that. But it's a good question for the
It
applicant.
should be properly evaluated at that time, because the worship, the timing of the worship and all that you mentioned here, they seem to be okay, but in cases where there are other functions conducted, then that should be noted and appropriate conditions should be put in so that it doesn't happen
Good point.
without.
I have a question.
Please.
Relative to the extra traffic, what do we do relative to extra traffic when we have a party in the park, a birthday party or whatever? Our community park is brilliantly used and very, very busy all the time. And we seem to have at least 1 or 2 events almost every day on the weekend, which brings in what looks like 50 to 100 extra people to the park on a weekend. How do we handle that as a general use?
As you're aware, there's no dedicated parking for that facility, so the expectation is that the on-street parking in the area will accommodate the users. There's a permitting process through the Parks and Recreation Department for events and whatnot, and to my knowledge, there's been no provision for any sort of dedicated parking as part of the typical reservation of the facilities at the community park.
Have we had any issues relative to parking regarding these events that we've had at the park?
Personally, and through the times I go to city council meetings, I haven't heard that raised as an issue of concern. I hear more about parking issues actually up at Mission Blue and at the ball fields up there as being a community concern. That's just my firsthand knowledge. I don't know if Ken's heard anything different.
Okay, so may I add one more question, Troy? So if we had this church group that decided they were going to have a wedding or whatever it is in their facility, would you anticipate that, given that we haven't had any issues with parking around the park, with all the parties that go on every single weekend over the last several years, that this could be an issue or not?
I think I would go to the maximum occupancy numbers, which is essentially a little bit under 200 for this facility. And if you figure for a wedding type event, you're probably going to have at least a couple people tend to carpool to those events. With 126 spaces in the shopping center, I wouldn't anticipate a problem, being that this would be a weekend thing. They wouldn't be able to do this weekday when the shopping center is in operation. Essentially, they'd have to be limited to the hours that the use permit allows for.
Right, and so the occupancy for a wedding couldn't exceed what we already have anyway, correct?
Right, it's set essentially by the size, just like this room has a max occupancy where they can't exceed. And so if they have a wedding party, they'd have to find another facility if they expect to exceed that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, is there any provision for the dedicated parking for the staff there? Because during the lunch hour, sometimes it's very difficult to find the parking there. So I think it should be part of the condition that there, on the site there should be a couple of dedicated spaces for the staff that will be there for the church use. And secondly, did the fire department look into ingress and entrance requirements, because there is only one way to get in and get out, that's through the visitation, that the main road, so, and everybody has to make a right turn there, because there is a double yellow there. They cannot make a left turn. So are there any provision to put the signs over there too, that on right turn arrow only, so that people don't try to make a left turn over there? And I've seen people are doing that all the time.
Both the fire department and the city engineer reviewed this, and they had no concerns that they raised regarding traffic in and out.
Yeah, but the thing is, right now there is no provision for that. But after you have additional people there, I think, should we suggest that there should be a sign saying right turn only? Because right now there is no such sign.
We could certainly bring that up to the city engineer if he's, as a suggestion, if he thinks it's necessary in his judgment. He certainly apply that anytime and pose that anytime.
Because as is, you can make a left turn, but people are doing that anyway on the double line. So I think if you have a sign there with a left turn arrow, that will reduce that. And the other concern I have is that since it's going to be a facility where a lot of times new people will be coming in too, and then the people who are here all the time for lunch crowds and all that, they know the circulation here. So I think it will be helpful to put such a sign there. So that will be my recommendation, and you can check with city also, city engineer, but I think it will not hurt. And the last thing I will say is that there is also the separate entrance for the Bank of America, and I think that side of the parking is exclusively for their use, but a lot of times I see the conflict over there too. So there should be some kind of a language here that the church users must use this side of the parking area. Because otherwise they will start parking in the ATM parking over there, and that will, create a conflict with the Bank of America.
Aren't you allowed to turn left out of retail
I thought,
area into the double yellow space before then proceeding into the
that's what I thought.
traffic going left?
If you're a double solid,
You can drive into it and then, but you can't
that's
cut
only
across.
when there is a substantial, the actual big space is provided for the car. I don't think that it's there. You're talking about the one on Sierra Point, if you go on the Sierra Point, there is a double line and you can go into double line and then you can merge, but I don't think it's over here because this is on the curve also. So, but unless I'm mistaken.
No, maybe you're right. I thought there was a double.
Yeah,
There is a center lane. It may actually show up in your aerial photo of this
Yeah, I was
site
just
in your
trying to
staff
find
report.
that. But you're right, you can't cut straight across it. You have to go into it.
I'm confused. So you're saying coming out of the shopping center,
Yeah, coming out of the...
wait, let me finish what I'm going to say. So
Yeah,
coming out of the
yeah.
shopping center, you think there needs to be a sign that says we can't turn left? But there's already a double, two sets of double yellow lines where
Yeah.
people can turn
Yeah, there it
into
is.
the center.
Right.
There is a central
There is
article,
one.
the provided link may not be necessary.
No, there is one.
Okay,
Yeah,
then I take it
That's my
back.
point.
there's one there.
Yeah.
I had one concern. I've had a little bit of experience with a similar type space.
If I may, through the chair, if you have questions for staff, otherwise you might want to open it up to the public hearing.
Oh, I said a question for staff.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah.
All
I
right.
was still talking to you, sorry.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
I noticed in here it mentioned that there was going to be a sound room, right, and the hours for the practice are posted. Does the conversion of the space include assessment of sound, like, in particular, like the use of sound dampening sheetrock and so forth? Because I've had experience with this kind of space in a similar kind of building where music, though it was limited to certain hours, was still disruptive beyond, which can be prevented up front, but I didn't know if that sound assessment was part of the conversion evaluation, when they're built, because they're going to have a stage, probably, speakers in there. And I wanted to make sure that was part of the initial assessment.
I don't know, there was no mention by the building department about that, and I would suspect that might be more of a voluntary thing that the applicant may want to do is,
Okay.
if there's a concern with the level of sound.
Yeah, because it does travel through, I was just looking at the adjacent businesses, because at times there could be overlapping. I'm not sure exactly what else is going on in the immediate, shared walls, but that could disrupt the adjacent businesses, so it should be considered earlier as maybe part of the requirement to build out space for sound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that may be a good question for the applicant as
Okay,
well, as
all right.
in terms of what the level of sound is.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or staff?
Thanks. Bless you.
I have no questions for staff at this point. Would the applicant like to come speak? Hi, come on. And can you state your name?
My name is Henry Kusuma.
Uh-huh.
Hello?
Hi.
So, welcome to Brisbane. So, does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
And give us a little bit discussion about what this project is all about and how it's going to benefit your members and all of that, so it can be put in the record so that not only us, but the rest of the citizens of Brisbane will know what is this all about. So can you just give a synopsis of the whole project and what efforts went into that and what you expect, benefits out of that?
Sure. Again, my name is Henry Kusuma. I'm a member of the church. Pastor Billy is the pastor. And right now, our church is renting a church building in the South San Francisco area. And as you know, we've kind of expanding the church and stuff, and we're kind of looking into a new space that would give us a bigger space that can accommodate more members into our church. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what prompted us into looking into a new space.
Okay. And where are your other churches located? Do you have any others in this area or in USA? And you are part of the big congregation?
Yeah, not only that big congregation. We do have our regular church in South San Francisco in 800 Grand Avenue, and then we also have another church in Menlo Park. Mm-hmm. We rented a community center. Yeah, community center over there as well every Sunday. It's not like regular place like what we wanted to have in here, but it's more on the weekly basis. And we do have it's like smaller. Members of that, about 50 people over there in Menlo Park, and those are the only two places that we have for service right now.
Okay, what made you interested in coming to Brisbane?
Well, we heard Richmond is a great city.
That's a very good answer, actually.
And part of that coming, so we'd like to.
So do you have a lot of members in surrounding area here?
Not particularly in Brisbane, but we do have members quite in a number of places from San Francisco until, I would say... Oh yeah, sorry. So we have one in Brisbane. One in Brisbane, and we have quite a number of them in San Francisco. We have a couple of them in Millbrae, Mateo.
Pacifica and all that, yeah.
Yeah, so around this area, surrounding this area. So, I think Brisbane will be a good central location for all of those members.
Okay, and you don't have any problem having a church in the middle of the shopping center that close to the shopping next?
Actually, it would be great. After church, we can have dinner and lunch too.
Because sometimes the churches, they like to have their own private space and all that. You are part of the whole, like a strip mall, so...
Yeah. No, we never had problem with community before, so, I think even if we, if we can get the space, I think it would be great that we can be close to the community as well and, mingle with other people as well from surrounding areas. I think that would be great.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
I have a question. So, back to the sound issue. But first, let me say I love live music, so that's not an issue. But I wanted to make sure that you'd be willing to consider the kind of unforeseen issues that come up with sound in a building or in a space that, and there are cost-effective solutions, certain kind of sound dampening sheetrock. Right. To use if you're rebuilding the space, because a lot of times you don't see or hear that until after, and then it's too late to go back in. It costs more to kind of do sound dampening. Because I'm not sure about the other. Have you met any of the other neighbors or that would be around the space yet?
Well, kita udah ketemu neighbor yang
the neighboring retail spaces.
Orang-orang yang di sebelah gedung yang kita mau sewa. Well, yeah, not particular, but even in the current church that we have right now, we do actually put in a acoustic damper on the walls. Mm-hmm. We actually do have quite a number of them, and we can certainly put that into consideration and add some more, and to make sure that the sound doesn't really travel a lot into the neighborhood.
And also the grip is soundproof also.
right?
Oh, yeah, we have the drips, the sunproof as well.
If I may, through the chair, Judy Ng is here, maybe she can address that, because she owns the building.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Judy, thanks.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Judy Ng. I'm the property manager for the center. So about your sounds that you are concerned. And first of all, if you look at the application with where the church had located, okay, I guess it's a picture there, right?
Yes.
And the
This-
sounds is all the way to the end. Okay.
The
which
sound
is-
room? Okay.
Right, the sound room. And the back of that on your left side, where the wall will be empty vacant lot. Okay, there's no building next to us at all. And then on the way you facing Bay Shore is to the end of Bay, going out to the Bay Shore. Okay, so, and above is my office. Okay,
Good.
so we don't work on the weekends. Okay, so, and then we also have Mark here. He's part of the owner of Teriyaki and Thai House of Thai.
Right, yes.
Okay, right next to it. And my understanding is that they do not open business as well on Sunday. Okay, and then right next to that one will be the New Ventures. That is where our staff from our office, that they open a more like a construction material right next to it, okay? But that's by appointment only, and we don't open for business for the outside people either. So it seems, all this will be quite far away from where the rest of the people who had to be sitting there and eat, okay?
Okay.
So, and I guess, for me, as the property manager, the first thing I will think about the safety and
Sure.
big noises, okay? I grew up from a Christian church, and I know, when our young people practicing their service before Sunday, and I hear a lot, okay? Even include my own daughters. Okay, one of them paid for that type. So if you hear the drum, I could hear all day. Probably I get used to it. And even my next door neighbors, their sons also in the drums of Low High School. So I could hear, if I open my window and their windows, we could hear each other. But those noise is not like let's put it that way, the drums and the other, guitar is mainly on the pianos, the basic, the three things that work on the worship times. So that's it. It's not like those rock and roll.
Oh, I understand.
That
Yes.
type, okay?
Right.
And drumming and they have those big music amplifier, right?
Yes.
And you can even hear the voice of the singer, but all you hear is the drums.
Now, Commissioner Reinhardt was thinking about Rolling Stones coming there and
I wish they could be there and using their facility.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And,
just kidding.
No, that's fine, and thank you for that, Judy. And I think just having the plan that you are going to have dampening, it's part of the sound room and stage, it is a good idea in general, because you never know, someone else moves in next door or upstairs, or you relocate different, you never know. So we just want to avoid any complaints from the beginning, so thank
if
you.
I hear the complaint, they will be from me.
Yeah, okay.
For sure. I will knock on their door and say, hey, you guys have got to be quiet.
I think, I have
Thank
a
you,
question,
Judy.
Judy.
Just to cover all bases, do the other upstairs occupants know that the church is going to come in? I mean, I know you've got a business upstairs that is an accounting business, and during tax time, that particular person is probably working 24/7.
I had mentioned that to Iris.
Okay.
Okay, but hers is more further away from, that corner where they have the sound.
Just we want to make sure we've got all the
Yes.
bases covered.
And also my concern, the first thing when they approached me, I was thinking about Dr. James,
you.
the dentist. Okay, but then again, they don't, every other, bless you, Saturday, but they don't open on Sunday either.
Okay,
So they are the one, we are the one that closest one, so,
good.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for considering all of this.
Yes, and one more thing I'd like to share is that, like I said, I grew up from a church setting, and I remember Charles and I first moved from Chicago over here to the Bay Area. And our church is a very small church, and we just have one tiny building, just like how, the Sunset Church, like the small houses, those 5-room houses. So this was our church. We had to borrow down the block another church for our service. And to exchange, we used, allowing one of our room for that church to use as a office. So we work together, but that's only, if they have special meeting, then we have to change our service time. So I've been going through with this, so I know it's very difficult, and I was so glad we finally have our own, church building in Vicente and 23rd Avenue. So when Pastor Billy, when he first came, approached me and shared with me the church location right now at Grand Avenue in South San Francisco. Actually, the 3 churches are using the same facility. You know how difficult that is to be. So I felt, when he approached me, I remember how our church had to go through. So
Yes.
that's the reason I said, yes, I will help. Okay?
Good. Thank you.
Did you have any questions? Well, thank you very much. And I have questions for Mr. Quinsma.
So I could,
Yes.
Thank you.
No, you can stay if you like.
And then we also have Lori Lesmano wants to speak. But I do have some questions. Can you tell me a little bit about so you have quite it sounds like a big youth program.
Oh,
It said around 30, is that correct? 30
in
children?
Menlo Park?
No, here.
In
I thought I
here?
read that here. That will be in this
Youth program.
youth. Sure.
Okay, my name is Billy Lesmana. Yeah, Henry helped me because he's better in English, so maybe better understanding. Yes, we have like once a month on the third Saturday have a youth fellowship only for the 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Yeah.
Great. So are you going to, I was wondering how you're going to set up the space. Are you going to do much modification or just a very little or?
The youth is very little, the person but only about 20 or 25, but approximately 10 car. So at the time usually the fellowships is not, we don't want to change anything. We just use the room.
The rooms.
Yeah. Because it's so small, our youth.
Great. And you had something you wanted to say?
I was wondering, are you asking about
Come forward.
The layout.
the layout inside the building?
Yeah. Are you, well, it sounded like you would want to set something up for, so my question was, are you going to expand to have a children's, a youth program, or for this facility? And then weddings, are you going to have, will there be enough space here, or will you go to another church? Or?
I think for the youth, mainly the youth is in Menlo Park.
Okay.
Yeah. So we just have like a gathering once a month yeah, for the fellowship, and we're our youth is only about 20 or 25% maximum. Yeah, and in Menlo they have on gathering. Yeah. So I think for now we don't have plan to change the inside. We're gonna use as is.
Okay.
For Sunday.
Well, I was going to say we have a wonderful park across the street.
That's right. Good.
Especially for the kids.
Any other comments?
I have one question.
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned once a month, but in the letter that you sent John to Ken Johnson, it doesn't say once a month.
Yes, on the,
It says that each service 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., but it doesn't say whether it's every month or what.
Third Saturday?
yeah, third Saturday.
Yeah, youth service, parking spots Saturday, but doesn't say third Saturday or anything, does it?
You may,
In this one here.
yes.
If I may, through the chair, there was a second email that essentially provided the same information with a little more detail, and I neglected to put the second one in.
So we don't have that.
You don't have that, but it's,
So ours says every week, so that's why,
it just shows.
that's why I raised that. And the other question I have is, do you anticipate a lot of children coming to the mass and your functions and all that?
Yeah.
And if you do you have any kind of a plan to have a chaperone to make sure that they don't run around in the park, in the shopping mall and all that? Would that be part of the, should we put that as a condition, or you will be planning to do that anyway?
Yeah. For the children, we have a room. In the layout, there's one room for the children. Our children, about maybe six children. Yeah. We have one room special for the children.
What I'm talking about is not the room itself, but I'm talking about when you park your car and inside the parking lot, and you don't want children to running around within the parking space and all that. So you will have any chaperones or somebody to make sure that the children don't run into the parking lots and run over by any car or any kind of incident like that.
Yeah, in these.
So you're going to provide any kind of a person there watching them, just like they do that at the schools? So if you have functions like that, you need to have something like that?
Yeah, we actually do have that already in our weekly service anyway. So it will not be spatial because we move into this space, but we're already doing that in our Sunday service right now.
So there is a person assigned
There's a person
to
assigned,
watch all the kids?
usually the Sunday teacher, because they all go to the Sunday school, all the kids. So when the parents go into congregation, then the kids go into the Sunday school, and the Sunday school teachers will be the one that handle the kids and make sure that they're
Yeah.
really running around and or even go outside of the room, basically.
Right.
So.
You don't want them in the parking lot?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, that will be a dangerous thing. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it will be just usual activity that we do every Sunday.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now,
Thank you so much, you're done. And I guess.
so I have Lori Lesmano. Did you want to come speak as well?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Lori Laxamana, resident of Brisbane. I'm here because, number one, I don't think this is the best thing for the community. Again, not trying to say don't put a church. The big thing is the community needs places to eat, places to buy, shop, stuff like that, other services. You have a thing that you set up, the shopping mall is set up for those purposes. Again, fair market price is what people can get when they can, but sometimes things, you cannot get downtown prices for the shops when you don't have walk-up traffic like you would have downtown San Francisco. So, again, I believe that affects how the places are being rented or not rented. But the whole thing is, I really don't believe the businesses, I believe they will be affected by it because like the coffee shop, the Mexican restaurant, the other Saigon restaurant, I guess it is, they still do dinners and stuff. There won't be parking. People will have to park at the other end of the parking lot because if all these cars are there for these type of things, some of those will not be able to be to get there. It just makes it harder for the resident, And then, again, I'm not sure exactly how to do all this stuff, but we'll try to figure out a couple other things I was looking at. Excuse me.
Sure.
What about when they do get the businesses rented out again? You're talking 40, 60 parking places for when the church is happening. What if some of these other businesses are, they're going to need parking? You can go there on a Saturday and still see the place filled up with cars. You can go there on Sunday morning and the place is filled up with cars, people having coffee, stuff like that, people washing clothes on Sunday, on the weekend. They take up a lot of the places for parking and stuff like that. What about, again, when it does start turning around and the places get rented? Where's the parking? I don't see that. It's just not, I believe that, you mentioned, well, you can go play in our park. And nobody's trying to keep the park as a public park. But we're overwhelmed with people, some of your own residents can't use the park because it's being taken up by all these events that are happening. And that's fine because it is a public park and you reserve it, you get to use it. But if you keep bringing more people into the park, it's just going to make it a little tougher. And I'm not trying to be anti-Brisbane, but again, the people of Brisbane need some more. We need places to shop, places to buy. People say buy local, don't go to the big boxes and stuff like that. We need to make, and that's for the council, it's to start making some changes to try to get people in to come to Brisbane and open up businesses. And they're there to be open, but again, I really don't believe it's a good thing. It's not helping the community. People say, well, it meets the need of the soul and all that. We have 3 churches, and they're meeting the needs of the souls, and you can have churches everywhere and anywhere, but you still need a place for the people to go and buy goods and sit and have coffee. The one place in town isn't good enough. We need more things like that. If you take them away, people don't want, maybe they want to rent there now because the place is filled with the church people on Sunday. A lot of people, somebody wanted to come in and have a nice breakfast place in one of those areas, the right side or the left side of the shopping mall. What about that? We got to give us a chance. The people have to have a chance to have something good in town. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on down.
My name is Dan Rickard, and I live at 125 San Francisco Avenue. My concern is parking, parking, parking. Like Ms. Cunningham, I feel already our park is heavily impacted on Saturdays and Sundays. The parking it's very difficult to find a place to park. Fortunately, Brisbane is very attractive, and as our park grows, with regard to the new PlayStations, on Sundays now we have Tai Chi, which is great, but there's 50 or 60 people there every Sunday, and that the parking, they're even going over to the mall. So I'm very concerned about an impacted area. And if this grows to 200 people, and they want to grow this church, where are the people going to park? How are the local people going to be displaced? I'm very concerned about that. You say a picture is worth 1,000 words. And this is kind of a typical day. We live right across the park. For example, from 11 to 1 every weekdays, they park in front of our house. On the other side, there's not ample parking in the mall, and that's fine. But if you were to envision this, and this is going to grow 200 people, and they're going to spill out in the adjacent areas, where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? So, in summation, I'm very concerned about adequate parking. How are the local people going to be displaced? And yes, it's parking, parking, parking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Please come up.
My name is Mark. I'm actually one of the business owner in the shopping center. I actually have 3 businesses going on in that shopping center now. And I definitely understand the concern in regards to the parking.
Could you talk to us, please? You're talking to us.
You guys, okay. It's kind of weird.
So you have, so your name is Mark?
My name is Mark. My last name is D. Actually retired from the military, came home to the restaurant. I kind of inherited the restaurant from my mother, with the tough economy. But anyway, here's the thing. In regards to the parking, I could see that as an issue, but for the church, it doesn't really affect the parking in the park. I mean, obviously, it's a weekend event here, right? And usually the weekends right now in the restaurant, because that's the time I come in on the weekend and do my paperwork. And Sunday, there's hardly nobody parking in that parking. It's empty. So I don't understand what the issue, I guess, in regards to the parking if it's empty in the weekend. And right now, if I could bring business on the weekend, that's why I don't open the restaurant, because there's no business. Nobody's coming down from Brisbane, going to the Japanese restaurant or the Thai restaurant, probably Subway. But the bottom line is there's not enough business for me to open on Sundays. Or even, well, we're open on Saturday. Hardly have enough business on Saturdays neither. So that's really an issue. I mean, I could see the parking being an issue later on with the 200 people coming into that facility, but in regards to the impact on the businesses, it's probably a plus for me. Now I could probably generate some revenues over the weekend. But right now, it's hardly being used, it's being underutilized.
Thanks, Mark.
Sure.
Please come up.
I'm Kanji Nishijima, and I live on the corner of Alvarado and Monterey. And to answer your question to them, in fact, during the events, parking is definitely an issue. We're 2 blocks away from the park, and whenever something happens at the park, we feel it all around our neighborhood. So it really does spill out quite a bit, and I've never voiced it because it's kind of like the fact of life, but certainly it's definitely an issue, and I'd like to, on the record, state that. I have to write this out, otherwise I forget.
Excuse me, I had a question.
Sure.
Over here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So you said there's an issue with the parking in the neighborhood, and is this because of overflow from the parking in the shopping center? And then
I don't know.
I was just wondering if you saw the situation in the parking lot of the shopping center in addition to your neighborhood.
I'm not very observant.
Okay, all right, just curious.
But in my area, whenever something's going on in the park that I know
It's
of,
congested.
or it's just,
neighborhood.
I'm not even aware of, but frequently, parking it just disappears around our neighborhood.
Okay.
So it's definitely an issue. And you know where I am, it's a couple blocks away from the park, so it's beyond just San Francisco Avenue. Anyway, I wanted to wish to voice my opposition to the use permit. And the reason is because, understandably, I assume the church's goal is to grow and expand. And the nature of a church, of course, is to grow and expand
period. There's no natural limit to a church's size. It just depends on how popular it gets. Say a business, typically you kind of have an idea how big or how small the business is going to get, depending on the physical limits. But with the church is about people, and however many they can get. Of course, they want as many as they can get. So with this assumption, at the same time, with the economy improving, I think Mark is going to be happy to hear. I'm happy to see, I'm sure in the future, that in fact businesses will get more customers, and I'm sure the vacant spaces will get filled very soon. I mean, the economy is improving, especially for businesses, and I'm confident that those places will be filled. In combination with that, then I think the shopping center with the church will basically grow beyond the capacity of the parking lot. And with the growth of the church, I would expect additional events, because I know in December they've got an event scheduled for Christmas, which is obviously something a church would do. More of those events would happen, more cars would come in, and the overflow would then impact our neighborhood. So I feel that as a church grows and holds more events and schedules additional services while vacant units in the shopping center gets filled, I imagine the overflow of cars taking over our neighborhood. I know there are safeguards for the revocation of the permit if circumstances significantly change, but I also believe that it's a lot easier to prevent mistakes than to correct them in the future. And I'm confident that eventually the growth of the church will be impacting our parking.
Yes, please come up.
Hi, Commission. My name is Charles Ng.
Hello.
I am the general partner of the owners for the shopping center. Normally, you don't see me come out to talk too much. I always let my wife talk. But anyway, what I have been hearing is really something against, I don't understand why such a speech has been said. First of all, okay, the parking lot of the shopping center, originally when it was built and designed for, is for the patrons of the shopping center only. It's not for the residential, members of the community. The shopping center was designed for the patrons of the shopping center. Mm-hmm. And secondly, according to California Building Code, which has been adopted by the Bisbee Building Code, each of the store, they have to post mandatory saying that the maximum occupancy is so much. And how do they calculate those maximum occupancy? The California Building Code have a very precise calculation. They base on the number of square footage of the premises, and then divided by this area of the space, and then that's how they determine the maximum number of occupancy. And then the fire department, they would enforce that because it's part of the fire issue. And also as what Commissioner Jamir has talked about the exiting. Right now, if you look at the proposed space, we have 3 exits, okay? And if they have under 50 or below 50, you only require by law 1 exit. Okay, of course, on top of that, you have to calculate the maximum number of occupants. And based on that space, I don't think you can get anything over 65 or 70. Mm-hmm. Okay, based on the code, which is law. And then, however, they already have 3 exits, which is way far and beyond what the law requires. Okay, if you're over 50, you only require 2 exits. And right now, you have 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, you have 4 exits.
Charles, where are they, please?
Huh?
Can you just, Can you just explain where they are, just so
okay.
everybody knows?
If on there was a fashion brand,
Right.
you remember the old fashion brand?
Right.
Okay, they have an exit up front and near the corner, and then they have a back exit to the alley at the back, where on Bayshore Boulevard. There's an alley. They go to the back.
So these are vehicular exits?
To the building.
Those are building.
Oh, just building exits?
Building exit. That's what the building.
People walking in and out?
Right.
Okay, so just so everybody who's listening to this
yeah.
understands?
And then on the small store,
Right.
they also have two exits also.
I'm sorry, the which store?
The small one next to the.
Oh, right.
They also have front and back exit.
In that corner?
In that store. So total is 4.
Right, okay. Just so people who are listening understand what we're
Yes.
talking about.
And then the entire facility, we have fire sprinkler, automatic fire sprinkler system. So, which is on top and beyond of the fire requirement. So also is meet far beyond the current occupancy numbers. So if, say in the future, if we are concerning about in 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, or even 5 years down the road, as long as they exceeded that number of occupancy, okay, the city have the right to enforce that, and at that time, they may need to consider moving to another place, because the space just won't be able to accommodate so many number of occupants. So I don't think that is a basic concern as what I've been heard. And as I say again, all the parking lot, all the parking space, they are provided for the patrons of the parking lot, of the shopping center only, not for any other purposes. Okay, thank you.
Charles, I think you brought up the very good points regarding the exiting from the building. Do you have any idea of any explanation for the exiting from the parking lot? Currently, you have entrance and exits, right? And would that be sufficient for that many number of cars?
Yes. Right now, actually, if you go down the entrance of the parking lot, when you get towards to Bank America, actually we post a sign there, no right turn. Because if you look at the Bank America, they only own one lane of the both lane. And then the median at Bank of America actually is the popular line. So one time we have been joking to Bank of America, said, we can let your people in, we don't need to let your people out. Because basically right now they don't. So we are maintaining a very good relationship with them. And we said that, well, we let you use the way out. Although we don't recommend them when they get to the end near where the garbage can is, we discourage them to make a U-turn and get out from the other side. We always talk to the bank, we encourage you to turn left to the parking lot and get out from there because it's safer. That they don't make a sharp turn, try to get out.
Right.
And we have been keep on reminding the bank on that. But occasionally, I think some of the bank's patrons, they still making that sharp turn. But we have already tried to keep on telling the bank not to do that. That's why we have a sign saying that left turn only, no right turn to the Bank of America. So, and at this time, about this parking lot space and also the turnaround, and it was designed originally in 1979. But when we did the remodeling, we visit all the parking requirement, as well as we discussed with the fire department regarding about the turning radius of a fire truck. So those all are already been visited about all those terms. So, and during the remodeling before, we even bring the parking lot to the ADA requirement. Okay, currently, all the parking lot have been updated to the current ADA requirement.
Okay, two more questions I have through the chair. One is, do you know the threshold of the parking spaces that you have? What will be the maximum number of people that our cars can accommodate to this?
I believe
126 is...
126 cars. And how did they calculate the 126 that time?
Not including the bank.
No, not including the bank. The bank is separate property.
Right.
Okay, we just let them use one of the land to get out. And how they calculate the 126, it was based on the California Building Code. And then at that time, we do the calculation with planning and building, and they used the 30,000 square feet, which is the total square footage that we have. Okay, and then based on the usage, because according to the California Building Code, if you use it as a office, you have to divide by a threshold of how many square footage per person. And then for retail and assembly downstairs, which including restaurant, and you have to use a certain factor to divide, and they add up together and determine the total number of parking space required. Yeah. So we met the requirement.
So with additional future projection of another, for the church to expand.
That's what I said earlier.
When will you reach the cutoff point where you said no expansion, period?
No, because the maximum occupancy posted, they are mandated and required by the California Building Code. So if they exceed the certain occupancy requirement, they just have to move. And
yeah, it's not only the occupancy, but also your parking requirements too. They both go hand to hand.
Right.
Because if you have less occupancy, but you have a lot more cars here, that will be a problem too. So did you do any kind of a rough estimate? I don't know the staff did or not. To come up with that threshold so that we say that maximum people, that number of people that church can accommodate and number of cars that the church accommodates is this much.
Again, what I said as before, I want to reiterate, the number of maximum occupant posted is determined by the California Building Code.
Yeah.
Okay, based on the usage. And then, that time when we calculate the parking store number of store required is based on the maximum occupancy. So if I'm not trying to single out the church, even right now with a restaurant, if they post in the store, maximum number of occupants say is X. If they exceed that, okay, the city have the right to regulate that. Hey, you're over the maximum number of occupants. And then you either have to reduce it or you move it somewhere else if the business grow. So I think that should apply also to the church.
And is the same standard?
Across the board.
Is it the same standard that for the restaurants? So many per square foot and all that?
If they are using as a big scale restaurant, they, according to the building code, is considered as assembly. Yeah, that's what they use the same number of.
So currently the space that you have, how many maximum people it can accommodate?
I haven't calculated.
The California
yes, code. I haven't calculated, but offhand, based on the space that I look at, and based on my 40 years of design experience, I would say it's around 70, 75, that's about.
You mean for that space?
For the space, yeah.
So the full occupancy for the whole, are you asking about just that space or full occupancy?
Or for church space that you have?
Okay.
How many maximum number of people can come in that space? Is it 75, 100, 200?
Yes, as what I said, it need to be calculated during the permitting stage. Right. And the building permit application will be reviewed and approved by planning as well as building. And that time they would determine, because some of the space they have to deduct it, like the hallway, the bathroom, you only can, even though it's a little bigger, but you only can fit one person, okay? And so they do have detailed formula on how to calculate that. And that will be part of the permitting process.
So the permitted process will say the maximum number of people will be this. Did we have that number?
I use that number in my staff report to come up with a now I'm not the official owner, through the building permit process, it's going to be based on their specific design.
maximum number?
I put it at about 200 people for an assembly use.
So the maximum number of people at this place can accommodate now until the future is 200.
Well, it,
192.
192.
okay, thank you. Okay. And the building code has different standards for different types of use, and so what the building official and also the fire department were indicating is that before they occupy this space, they're going to have to pull a building permit to make sure that the exiting especially complies with the type of use, so that essentially they'll have more people than you might have in a normal retail space, and so that exiting has to comply. If I could add also through the chair, Table 1 in your staff report has the details of my parking survey, and I gave you my staff report, so go from memory, correct me if I'm wrong, but I had 138 as an estimated 100% occupancy, assuming all the rest of the spaces were occupied to the same type of uses as an average as the current use, and then you took this corner space and assume the church occupied it with their two parking spaces during those weekday peak time uses. That came up to 138 spaces. I did a quick calculation as we were talking here, and if you assumed instead of the church but put another type of use that takes that average and put that in that space, it actually raises that number during the peak times to about another 15 spaces. So in a way, this use would help to alleviate those lunchtime parking problems that would otherwise occur once you had, assuming 100% occupancy.
If you assume that, let's say for example, the church has a maximum, they reach the maximum capacity, which is 192. If you have 192 people there, how many parking spaces are required for 192 people?
30. Page
Maximum, yeah.
1.3.
So if you have 30 spaces for 192 people, then rest of it, so you have enough to cover the rest of your shopping mall requirements?
May I?
Yes.
Thanks.
So this
I'm
that should be
looking
okay.
when this church is looking to be in this space and they're in off hours. The maximum of 30 spaces is going to be on Sunday and Friday evenings. That's what I see. I'm not seeing that this church is coming in and taking up space during lunchtime or any other main dinner space time in parking lot at this time. So 30 spaces on a Sunday, 192 people maximum. I'm not seeing that we have an issue in the parking lot relative to parking under any stretch of the imagination.
Even if you doubled it.
Even if you double it.
Yeah, well, I think that's.
So I don't see a problem here.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually, that the timing and all that. But when you design for something, you take the worst case scenario.
Well, I wasn't looking at the worst case scenario.
The worst case scenario is that you have 200 people at the worst possible moment, which if you can do that, that's also, I think, you have enough spaces here. So I don't see any problem.
calculate, right?
Right. I did just look at the worst case scenario.
Peak hours, yeah.
We've got 192 people maximum. They're not there in peak time. They're there in off times. What I see is those 192 people feeding the restaurants that are already there. As for the parking, that's a completely different issue that's outside of the parking lot. I don't see, because this is and I'll call it a business, you're a church, but I'll call it a business that is going to be in our shopping center in off hours with the blessing of the owners, because they're renters there, using the parking spaces. They are not going to affect other local parking people. I don't see,
In the shopping center.
I think should we be discussing this at the discussion amongst us at this point? I would like to entertain any more
Thank you.
discussion from the public. Please come forward. Yes, you can make a second comment.
Lori Laxamana, resident of Brisbane. One of the other things that you have to consider are those 30 cars, that there are probably 30 full-size vehicles, and the parking lot, or wherever you want to say it, has compact cars for quite a few of the spaces. So the 30 full-size cars will create problems for people wanting to come in and go to these places because they won't be able to park in between. There's only also 2 handicap spots to the front and another 2 around at the far end. So if you bring more people in, you're going to really need to have more. I think if you did the calculations, I think they do call for more handicap spots for that many area, for that much area. So I just think you have to, the 30 cars are all going to be big cars, not small cars. Because if you have 192 people, put 192 people in the 30 cars. Be realistic. You're going to have more cars and you're going to have bigger cars. Those will be the choices. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Please come forward.
My name is Olivia Madrid. I live at 119 Alvarado here in Brisbane. And I guess my concern for Sunday morning, which is supposed to be a quiet morning besides the aircraft noise here, we have a big, huge Tai Chi going on every Sunday morning at the gazebo in the park. It is so big that it's overflowed to the basketball courts as the overflow lot. Now, these Tai Chi people bring in one person, one car, and there's about 60 to 80 Tai Chi people. Now, this time is going to conflict with the time that they want to do their preaching for the storefront.
How long is the Tai Chi, does anyone know?
Couple hours.
9 to 11.
9 to 11?
that's street parking.
And that's street park.
Street parking.
Well, they park anywhere they can find parking. And that has grown. Talking about growing, that has grown. Because it was just a little group at the gazebo, now it's a huge group, and now they're using the basketball courts across the street for their overflow Tai Chi, because the gazebo doesn't accommodate all of them. I mean, they're peaceful, they have a little boom box and they do their thing and they leave, but for 2 hours, it's jammed with parking. And then after they leave, then comes the picnickers, the people that have reserved the spots to picnic with their barbecues and their cars and their trucks and their pickups. So it's going to be a busy, busy corner. Getting in and out. And there's one way to get in and one way to get out, unless they know to go through the industrial part and come around that way. But this is going to be one busy town on Sunday mornings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please come forward.
You guys already met me, Mark. I'm really excited about opening the business on Sunday, too. Obviously, the restaurant's been there for 17 years, and, it's doing okay, but it's not enough for me. That's why I got out of the service to come home, kind of make some money. It's not happening for me. So this thing right here in the weekend on Sunday would probably benefit the business in that complex and probably generate some revenue, especially having a church in there. So I think it's a win-win situation here. And definitely parking is really an issue. Either or, even if you go downtown San Francisco, it's always been an issue, parking. But I think in regards to this timing here, I think it's going to work out perfect. So that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see no one else wanting to speak, so at this time, I will close the public hearing.
A motion?
Motion to close the public hearing? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
May I finish where I was?
Yes.
Okay. I certainly understand issues in Brisbane around parking. In fact, I've written it down 5 times on the front sheet of my paper. And I only wish we could resolve those issues in one fell swoop. The parking relative to the park, and the parking relative to Tai Chi, and the parking relative to any of the events that go on in the park or at the basketball court are, in my opinion, have nothing to do with this application. I really understand the parking in Brisbane is a pig at best, and that I really wish we could figure out a way to open other areas and make it known to people who are coming to the park and everything else, that, you know, maybe there's parking here that we could open, maybe we could open the post office, the city parking, whatever it is, I don't know. But I don't think it has anything to do with this application. I think it has absolutely nothing to do with this application, except that it's next door. People who are going to come to this business, if this is approved, are going to be parking in a shopping center parking lot, in my opinion. So I think we have 2 distinctly different issues going on here, and the complaints I'm hearing, for the most part, not all, are relative to parking on the streets, and believe me, I've lived here for a long time, I get it. When, you know, I've got people parking outside of my house that have got 6 cars and I can't have a guest come, I get that very much. It really chaps my hide too. But we're not talking about parking on the streets of Brisbane, around the park, around the basketball court, around anywhere else. We're talking about this one application for a business church that wants to go to the shopping center and park. I read the numbers. I don't see any problem here. I hope we can maybe address parking again relative to the issues that were raised in a separate situation again, but relative to the church coming into the business, I can only see it driving more business in the shopping center, which kind of overcomes some of the objections that were brought up, that if there are more people in the Brisbane shopping center, maybe more businesses can either open in more attractive areas. I mean, this is in that back corner. Nobody wants to have a business in that back corner, right? That is the dark hellhole of wherever. Sorry, Chuck. Sorry, Judy. The back of that lot is not an attractive space, but it is an attractive space, obviously, to this applicant, which opens up the other spaces to maybe being available to other businesses who go, oh, there's more traffic, more business, more money coming in, more sales tax, whatever. That's what I see.
Okay. I support what Commissioner Cunningham just said, and wanted to add that the parking right now, I mean, first, I want businesses to thrive. I want the parking and the circulation to be fluid, you know, for the community. I also don't want parking meters and permits to sprout up, which are also solutions to some of these other complaints that we're having around the parking, around the park and the neighborhoods. But I still think we should bring some light to that dark corner, and this could be a good way to do that. And the parking, if the parking surveys are accurate, which, and again, even if we double the occupancy of the church during the weekdays and the weekends, the only conflict that might come up is if the Tai Chi people are parking in the shopping center before 11 o'clock and the church adds that 11 o'clock service, you know, I think if they reach 100 people, they'll add a service at 11 a.m. So maybe there's a little overlap if the Tai Chi folks are actually parking and filling the shopping center on Sunday, which I doubt. If I'm not mistaken, I know that other places, retail and shopping center and different businesses could have spaces allocated based on their space, but we don't have that right now. We want to be sharing these spaces. And there's a lot of room to move in there on parts of the lot that are actually not, some parts of the lot, I'm saying aren't developed, but, meaning I hear the large car issue, but I don't think that it's going to be that impacted on peak hours. And if we have a problem with that, I kind of welcome the problem within the next 2 years, and then we can deal with it then. Because right now, the percentage of vacancy in the shopping center is far too high to consider or to look at parking this critically. I don't see the overflow. I agree that the parking on the, I go down to the park on the weekends and run around there. There's definitely parking of these different activities in the neighborhoods, and that can be frustrating. I think we all live on a street that has parking, issues. I know I do, and I'm not even near the park. So it's all about sharing and trying to figure out a solution without mandating, permits and parking meters and restricting people from coming in here. We want to encourage people to come in here, and if it's, for some reason, there's a problem, we can take care of it then as a commission and as a city. So I do understand the fear of that lot being used for people that aren't in the shopping center, but if it comes down to it, we can make sure that the people that rightfully occupy that space are given the parking spaces that they deserve. So, thank you.
Commissioner Miner?
Yeah. I was going to go last, but I think Commissioner Blair is
She's
recused
herself.
part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I definitely hear one of the, the audience talk about the business model is meant for the businesses, and we do need the businesses here and all that. But knowing the fact that we struggled with that for a very, very long time, we tried to come up with the ideas to bring up the downtown Brisbane. Last I recall was about almost 8 years ago, where we were talking about how to bring more businesses in Brisbane. And if you look at the visitation, there still are a lot of open places. And it's not working out. And this particular mall has been vacant for a very long time. And if they get the opportunity to attract some church for a good cause, and it's going to bring some foot traffic into the parking lot, into the shopping mall, and hopefully it will encourage the existing businesses to open on Sundays, then it's really a positive thing to do. And I have not seen the churches in the shopping mall, but this will be a unique experience here, and definitely we will see how it's going to improve the business situation in Brisbane. So it's a good experiment for us, and I think, and I'm pretty positive that it will be a successful one. Also, I do want to encourage people to raise their voice about the parking issues. We try to address that many times. I've been on the Planning Commission for almost 10, 12 years now. And we tried even, I remember many meetings, I even talk about some of the empty lots that city owns. Maybe they can convert that into a parking structure, but nothing seems to move. And we still have the same problems. The parking in the street is going to be a problem. As far as the parking within the shopping mall, I think it depends on the enforcement from the part of the property owner, because that's his responsibility, that's his private property, and he can put the signs and all that. And if the problem does, happen that still people are not listening, he may have the rights to even issue the citation through the city police department, It can be done if the situation is bad, because you're not allowed to park in, and I've seen many places they have the assigned parking signs. So it can be done that you can have a sign for the mall, people within the working and shopping at the mall only. That can be done. So I don't think we can penalize this particular, the owner of the mall as well as the new occupants that are planning to come here by saying that, oh, we have problems with the people coming to the new play structures and all that, and Tai Chi and all that. That's a city-wide issue, and it has nothing to do with this private particular shopping mall. I don't think we should mix that with that and try to penalize them for not having another business or another, it's not a business, but another place of worship coming to this town, and at least bring more foot traffic. So I hear the concerns of the people here. I hear the concerns that we need more businesses. I hear the concerns that we lack a lot of facilities here. We tried and tried and tried, but nobody wants to come to Brisbane for some reason, or we were unable to attract. And that's why the whole idea, and I think Commissioner Cunningham was with us when we were trying to remember the number of sessions we had, we looked at the downtown, how we can come up with a downtown that we can bring more businesses and all that. And we went through the whole plan for mixed use in downtown, but nothing seems to work. And on top of that, we had the problems with the bad economy. So that really sets the whole thing back also. So in the absence of that, we are hurting, and I think this particular facility is for the good cause, and I think it's really going to bring some foot traffic for the people who are doing the business over here. So I really don't have any real objection, other than the fact that we should keep in mind the safety of the people there. And that's why I brought some of the concerns that I had, and also the occupants have said that they will have some chaperone to guide the children during the time when they are here, so that they don't wander around in the parking area. That will be my biggest concern, because sometimes that happens, that people, when they're reversing, they don't see the small children there. So that should be properly enforced, and I think we have done that in many of the permits that we issued before. For example, the one in the 8 Mile, when they have the facility, anytime they have any kind of functions over there, we make sure that there is somebody there to guide the people what to do, how to cross, and be sure. But it's the same situation here as to how not to mingle around in the middle of the parking lot, because people have tendency to talk, and then they will block in the middle of the, and start talking, and the people want to reverse it and all that. So that has to be stopped, and there should be some area where people, if they do want to talk after the services, they should mingle around in that particular area, not in the middle of the parking lot. So I'm bringing all these concerns, and I hope you are listening to that, and it's for your own good, because that will be, if you want to keep the facility to be as safe as possible. And as far as the fire requirements, I think the fire departments will do the excellent job of reviewing that. And Charles is very much aware of all the building codes and all that. Actually, he can teach all of us. So that's plus. So in my opinion, I don't think I have any problem with this whole application, other than the fact that in future, if they do have any kind of a big weddings or anything like that, keep abreast the staff so that they can review the situation, and if there is any corrective actions needed, then they can issue the permit at that time. So that's and I make a motion to go ahead and approve this particular project.
Thank you.
Our application.
I have one concern. And the current concern I have is that there's, the people at this church respect the area and right by the laundromat, so that the people who come in to do their laundry are able to get in and out. And so that they are coming in and they're lugging all their laundry, and so they like to get as close as they can to the laundromat, and they have their children and whatnot, and they're trying to maneuver. So that would be a concern that I have, that maybe that people understand that there's other parking, and not just to try to take that space. And that's really my concern. I think that it's, I wanted to ask the staff, what is the name of the new committee that's going to be looking at not parking, but street?
I don't know if it ended up calling the Complete Streets Committee or something like that, but there is a committee that's looking at pedestrian access, parking, safe routes to school, those kind of issues within the public way.
Has that been closed for applications? I don't know if they have not currently moved forward on that. From when I was at the city council meeting, and there's still there have been some applicants, and I don't think they're going to. And I would suggest that maybe, this is a really substantial issue for the folks that are living right around the park, that there's some parking issues that, they are feeling really hemmed in by the park. And if one of you really has the energy and the innovation and the volunteerism, maybe perhaps you could talk to City Hall and see if you could be on the committee that will help make recommendations about what can be done, and maybe perhaps come up with solutions, because I think that's where your voice needs to be heard. I really feel your voice needs to be heard, and I think up to now I have not heard your voice. You're just sitting there enduring the situation, and it sounds like it's just an endurance. And I'm happy you came here today to talk about the problems you're having, and I think that now the planning department has heard you. We've heard you, and perhaps if you know of anyone in this local neighborhood who might want to be on this commission, please contact City Hall. They have not closed, I don't think they've closed applications at this point, at least not from what I heard Monday night. And I think that would be really wonderful if you are able to get your voice heard. But as far as this application, I don't see any problems with this. I don't think it's going to interfere with your issues. And also, if there's going to be a big event, such as a wedding, and you look like you're going to have a lot more parking, there's also parking over by City Hall right here, which I think is underutilized. So, this is for the church. I don't think people come and park here so much. And that's not such a long walk over to the church, so, to the mall. I think that's all I have to say.
Chairman, regarding your concern for the laundromat parking, one way to resolve this is maybe they can assign 3 or 4 parking spaces with a note, red mark 10 minutes of parking only for laundromat only. That's been done in many places. So that way people don't park there. It's reserved for that particular use, and they can have the timing that from 10 to 11 or whatever, with the maximum people there. And that's been done in many places where they have the parking issues. A lot of businesses there, and they try to compete with each other for parking, so then they assign that particular spot. So what can be done is you can provide certain spaces in front of the laundromat and say this is reserved for the laundromat from time this and this. That's a possibility too, and it can.
Yeah, loading and
kind of
unloading.
situation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a private parking lot. I'm not sure what kind of rules apply, but.
No, I'm just saying that it can be,
Well, we have the owners here, so.
it's possible that the owner can do that, I don't know.
But that was just my concern. So are we ready to make a motion?
I already did.
All right, but I hadn't spoken yet.
So once again, I make a motion to approve this application,
I'll second that.
and we have,
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
so moved. Thank
Welcome.
you so much.
Welcome to Brisbane.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item H, items initiated by staff.
I just want to advise the commission on the first item that the city council did accept the commission's recommendation to look at alternative sites for the housing instead of the southwest Bayshore area. So the ball is back in staff's court to get this back and agendized, and we've been kind of tied up with some other activities, but we'll try to get on it in the summer and back with a work program to move this forward.
Can you say that again, which one they approved and which one they didn't?
They didn't really get specific. I mean, basically, you suggested alternative sites.
Yes.
And they directed allowed the council to look at these alternative sites. So, I mean, the commission, rather. So that, they didn't pick any particular one. That really wasn't the intent of the exercise. It was to allow that activity of sorting through and making a recommendation as to which might be preferred. You know, that's back in your court.
So they have no objection with VWR site, right?
Correct. I mean, there were some issues raised about whether or not, I think there was, again, some secondhand concern about hazardous materials on that site, and but there were certainly, if that property owner was interested in entertaining that, they were certainly open to that as well.
It seems as though the property owner is at this point trying to make certain that the previous owner has cleaned up the site, so they're kind of combing it. But he is not at this point ready to move forward because the previous occupant is still renting the space.
Oh, sure.
So at this point, my understanding is that the city will need to look at some of our original ideas. Is that correct?
That's correct. The mixed use, or the sites down in the industrial park, that was the, behind the post office, those sites. VWR, I think those were the two that come to mind. And I don't think the timing of the VWR sort of situation, the fact of the matter is that I think the property owners understands that whatever they want to do with that property in a redevelopment sense is going to take a series of, it's going to take time to get it entitled for some other use, so it's not like they're going to sit around until the lease expires to start a planning process for that property. That doesn't really do them a lot of good either, so they've already expressed interest in looking at what their future plans are, understanding it could take some time to actually work through the city system.
Right. Great.
Now, what is happening with that property that the school district has? One time they were thinking about developing it, and then I never heard anything from them.
This is
Teachers.
right. It's still on 25 Valley Drive site, so that's included already within the area that's been designated for rezoning to mixed use. So I have not heard anything from the owner recently about interest, but and they have a tenant currently. But that is an area that would be included in this larger redevelopment area.
Also, what was discussed at the city council meeting is that the original numbers were based on misinformation, so that the number of low and moderate income units does not need to be as large in future years. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say it's based on misinformation, but there was a allocation that was assigned to Brisbane in 2007 through 2014, is the cycle, right? That was a high number, 401 units, which everyone objected to. They thought it was too high. Whether or not it was a good number or a bad number, that was our number, and we're living with that number. For the next cycle, 2014 to 2022, and going through the same exercise through the county and through ABAG, who assigns these, we were able to get a number of 83 units for the next 7 or 8 year cycle. So
that means the number will drop, or we're supposed to include an additional 83? That's...
Well, you have to demonstrate you have 83 units among these various income categories. The problem, or the real confounding question, is the slate doesn't get wiped clean from what we were supposed to do in the last cycle, the 401 units, which requires the rezonings of those districts, which we haven't accomplished yet. I'm not convinced that they're going to just wipe the slate clean. So the idea of still proceeding with, even if it's an alternative site that achieves meeting our current requirement, is kind of separate from, I don't think, and I told the council this, I don't think the idea that we do nothing and then expect HCD of the state to give us a pass on what we should have done in the last cycle is necessarily a realistic expectation. That's even though our number for the next cycle is lower, 83, that doesn't necessarily cleanse us from what we were obligated and committed to do that we didn't do in the past. So that there's still some gray area in terms of what that means in the next housing element, but the message is we'll be in much better shape if we're actually proceeding in good faith and with due diligence to trying to do what we committed to do in our last housing element, and that's the path the council wants us to take.
Does that 83 take into account the 401 from the previous cycle?
That's the question. I mean, it doesn't.
It doesn't, right?
But it doesn't. In other previous cycles, you could kind of just start fresh, and there's some question as to whether you do start fresh because you have an obligation. If you didn't meet that previous obligation, it's one thing if, yes, we did that, we're done, then we're just moving forward. They're going to be looking at our past performance as part of that sort of process, and whether they say, well, that's interesting, you should demonstrate your 83, and now you still agreed to do this. How's that coming along?
Yeah.
We're still going to have that discussion with them.
Right, I have a question. I thought we sort of had some of that in play in our favor because we did move forward in a good faith effort and we did identify problems with what was proposed, and then we proposed other things rather than just saying, oh, we can't do this. We actually came up with alternatives.
I'd absolutely agree. I'd absolutely agree. That's very good preliminary steps, but what the state's looking for, their goal, or the city's obligation as of whatever last fall, I believe, was to have rezoned sites to achieve 401 units. So the fact that we started the due diligence and went through an exercise and realized those sites were not suitable, I think that's all to the good, but it's the whole idea of demonstrating progress and making progress. We may not get there, and we may be 2 years behind when we were supposed to, but if we're making progress and we've gone through these steps and we've identified these alternative sites and we've had these meetings and we're doing X, Y, and Z, that's a much more compelling story to the state than, well, those sites really didn't work out for us and we'll think about doing the other ones, later if we have time, or, we have to be demonstrating, I think, progress, and that's what the intent is, and we'll come back with a work program to do that. Along that same line, it's not related to the Planning Commission's issue, but back to the teacher site and some other issues that we'll probably get into a vehicle for maybe starting the discussion with the other alternative sites behind the post office and whatnot is, as part of the budget this year, the council did allocate $10,000 for the city to initiate it's kind of a charrette process through the Urban Land Institute.
Who did that? The state?
No, the city council.
The city council?
Yeah, there's a $10,000 payment or requirement, and it's called the Technical Assistance Program, where Urban Land Institute, which has a variety of expertise, whether it be planners or architects, developers, people who do development, they will actually come into an area. We will pose some questions for them, define probably Crocker Park as the area, and use that as a jumping off point for some brainstorming of some design concepts that would probably do double duty. It'll probably address sort of the mixed use site, potentially the shopping center, the idea of how that might be integrated in, or if indeed the shopping center were to outlive its useful life in this particular form, what might happen and how that could be integrated in a different form. And then getting into Crocker Park in terms of other the opportunity sites that you've identified potentially for housing, and if you do that, then what are some of the other land use and design implications? So I think it's a real exciting opportunity. Now that we have the budget authorization, we will make that request to ULI probably in July. We'll make a formal application to them. We'd have to structure a program, and I could see when we're further along that process of coming back, maybe to get a planning commission subcommittee to help kind of formulate that work program, and because you'll all be engaged in it fully when it happens, but maybe get some input up front, I think would be effective. It'd be useful for us to have that, your input sooner than later, in terms of sometimes a matter of not only what questions you ask is really important, and how you ask those questions, and that's kind of what sets the table for that design and that charrette process is what are the questions we want to have answered, and how do you pose them. So I think it's really exciting opportunity to kind of get out of that logjam of not having the resources to really undertake this effort, I think, in a manner that will lead to a successful outcome. So I think this is a good boost.
Do you know when the charrette, is there anything on the calendar for this?
No, we have to make application. ULI would have to get their panel together, that being within their, I suspect if we apply in July, we probably wouldn't get anywhere in terms of an actual event until probably after the calendar year. I don't think you'd want us to try to do a charrette in after, mid-November. So how much lead time do they need, I'm not sure, but we will keep you posted.
Well, the city is kind of going to be busy with the EIR.
Yeah, exactly. There's other activities going on.
And the election.
So that was good news. That was 2 meetings ago at council. We did that.
And what was the name of the group?
Urban Land Institute, ULI.
Urban Land Institute.
Yes. And that's out of their San Francisco branch.
Great. And then the Bayland status report?
Well, I think you all have your reading material or your hard pillow or whatever you want to call it. And, happy reading. Thank you. There's also the information presentations are scheduled starting next Tuesday, right? Tuesday, Thursday, the next 2 weeks. And you should have received a blast on some of the content and some of the specifics. There are a couple of logistical things I want to kind of throw out just right now, so maybe Tuesday night. As you know, you're not really, you're sort of serving as an informal hosting role to this particular event, and not serving as the commission. You're not having a planning commission meeting. It's nothing like that. It's an informational presentation. And in talking to the consultant,
how many people are going to be making the presentation?
One.
One.
And talking to the consultant even about how this room looks and works, it's going to be our suggestion that it doesn't make much sense for you to be there and him making a presentation to you when it's a public meeting, that the commission sit over here to this table, this will be blank, and the presenter will turn toward the audience and face this way. So
great.
It's clear, and that also is a different dynamic. People aren't coming in expecting a planning commission meeting. It's a little, even just a visual clue that isn't just a regular meeting. So we'll ask your cooperation in that, and And my thought is the chair will kind of be the introducer and the moderator of that particular event, and
And it starts at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, and scheduled for an hour and a half, and I'm sure we'll have I hope we have a full house. It'll be
Are we
televised.
going to have in the hour and a half, a question and answer, or just a presentation?
There'll be some time, I expect, for some Q&A at the end.
And that will be after the hour and a half, or
No, it'll be
in
part of
the hour
that,
and a half?
part of that time. I think certainly we can talk offline, Madam Chair, about
Right.
sort of some points you might want to make in terms of when the meeting starts, introduction points in terms of the meeting format and structure, and maybe a few other things. So we can talk offline about that.
Okay.
Help.
Well, I have to say, I'm quite delighted that we finally have the IR after all this time. Exactly how long is this? Is this around 600 pages, or this
I think it's
particular one?
more in the ballpark of 1,000 pages.
So this one's 1,000, and then there's 3 other volumes of 1,000 apiece?
The appendices are, what, four books like that, right, I think?
4 books.
That's right.
So it's about 5,000 pages.
Probably, yeah, the reference
Yeah.
reports are another 13.
Right. So, and we're supposed to learn this in 4 months?
Learn it in 4 months? Well, you'll have plenty of opportunity to deliberate on the document, public comments, and the responses to those comments. So I don't expect there'll be anything that addresses all that before the time that process of getting the public comments and responding to them. I don't think you'll be seeing anything in a draft form of that magnitude until early in the calendar year, into the calendar year of next year. So, again, since the commission's not, as you all recall from the role, you're not really taking an active role in
Right.
reviewing this document on a standalone basis anyway. So
Right.
hopefully that will ease your trepidation a little bit.
I might, through the chair, just mention that the CD that's in the jacket actually includes the appendices, so you do have
There's
that.
4,000 pages worth of appendices, right?
Great, thank you.
The chairperson is supposed to remember everything.
I will chapter and verse, that's right.
That is, how many pages per day?
So I'm glad to entertain any questions, otherwise we'll see you
Did you get yours?
Tuesday.
Yeah, I was,
That's the additional
Oh, the
4,000.
next item?
yeah.
I have some issues I want to bring it up.
That's why my envelope broke. Okay. That's okay.
So that's all for the items initiated by staff. All right, items initiated by the commission.
Okay, I have a couple of items that, did the subcommittee meeting updates, are we going to start first or what? Madam Chairman? Because there's one item here, subcommittee.
Right, that's what I was trying to decide. Does anyone have a report from the subcommittee?
A brief one.
Okay.
For the Sustainability Committee. So the last meeting, which was on June 5th, it was brief, as I said, to go over the consultants' key performance indicators that were put together previously, and to kind of look at those, take an overview of that and see how well they worked, if there are any issues that we had as a committee to address. So the next step after doing that is to figure out our work plan, and in our next meeting we will set up a schedule and our agendas for the work plan to work on the actual performance indicators of all the principles.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No.
So, okay,
What
so,
is a performance indicator?
so how,
You.
so it really creates a metric for that principle. So if we're talking about, traffic or cultural heritage, we have to come up with some kind of measurement that we can achieve as a city for that particular principle. So if it's dealing with water quality, or energy use, we're going to come up with a metric on what we need to do ideally for that actual principle. So if it's for, like I said, water use, okay, we have to have, or energy. We have to use, 90% has to be renewable energy. Create that metric, and then we'll follow that as a city.
My suggestion is not to make it too complicated metrics.
Oh, no, they're supposed to be very simple, yes.
Because engineers have a tendency, including myself, have a tendency to make it very complicated and try to include everything in the metrics and nothing can get done.
Right. No, we'll keep it simple, and that's exactly why we have the consultant, because he has experience with this and has already done it in creating indicators that are simple, easy to understand, and achievable, which is the main.
Now, who's the consultant?
Jeff Cyphers, which is, you want a spelling? It's Jeof, his first name, and Cyphers is Syphers. So he's through the One Planet Living. We found him through that. That was the kind of the system we were following and using as a guide for the principles, the 10 principles that we came up with. And he's really our guide through that, a consultant that's been through it and successfully has done it at the Sonoma Mountain Village, I think was as kind of a model. So we took that initial document and then used its skeleton to develop one for Brisbane, because we wanted it to fit.
So
with
he has come and spoken?
Yeah, he's worked with us in the previous, in the draft of the 10 principles that were submitted to the city council, that were reviewed and then returned to us to now develop the indicators so that how we're going to actually do these things, achieve them. So you can say, the first, and I don't know if you remember, when the draft came through that we looked at, there were really grand statements or kind of ideals that we wanted in each of these, to areas. So this is where it really makes it concrete and it creates a metric, like I said, to actually measure the progress. So, Jay, he's been great so far, and so that's the next step. And that's really the exciting part, because now we're going to really see how this is going to take shape and how it applies to the people in the city of Brisbane.
Any other subcommittees?
Green Building has not met.
Yeah.
Through the chair, so we with the last update, we had some comments from the building community. Concurrently, I've had the city attorney looking at the ordinance, and he has indicated that he has some comments on that as well. And he's retired now, but I have indication from him that he's still going to provide those. So I'd like to bring those forward at the same time. So I'm hoping soon to reopen that.
May I ask a question? Oh,
Excuse me. If you are a new city attorney now or not yet?
that was my question.
I believe the council will make an appointment Monday evening.
And at that point, the new attorney will immediately step in, or?
That's my understanding. Thrown right into the fire.
Good time.
And the attorney that we met for the EIR process in the Baylands,
She remains special outside counsel, and she'll remain on the project.
but she won't be at any of the meetings.
These upcoming 4 meetings, these information sessions, no. But down the road, get into hearings on actions, most likely you'll see her at some of those meetings.
Okay, great.
Okay, now, are you going to want to have the city attorney come before the planning commission, introduce himself, and so that we can get...
I think that'd be a good idea, yes, once he's appointed and kind of gets he has a number of things he needs to get up to speed on pretty quickly, but yes, we'll work that in. Hopefully later this summer he can come down and introduce himself, and we can have a discussion.
Okay. I have a series of these things that I just need the update on those things. One is that on Tunnel Road there was a proposal to put that paratransit or whatever terminal there, shuttle buses. Whatever happened to that? I saw the parking lot is all finished and everything, but I don't see any other progress being made there. Are they still going to come there or not?
Yes, the bus yard, the use permit application, they have, I understand they're close to finishing their build out of that and should take occupancy fairly soon.
Okay, that's good. The second one is the ecology project that we were, the council was trying to get, their new plant that they want to build, and I think it was approved by the San Francisco voters, and it was supposed to be on the Brisbane side. Anything happened to that?
Well, two things. One is one of the variants, in the EIR actually includes the expansion of the Recology plant. That's one of the alternatives. But there may be some timing issues. Recology actually is coming forward Monday night to the council, making a request about expediting, an independent review of that project versus having it tied with the larger Baylands because of some timing issues. So we'll see what the council does with that Monday night. But it's still active.
Now, I understand that the couple of city council members did meet with the owner of the Baylands in Canada. That's what I heard. I don't know whether it's true or not. So is the owner in sync with that? Is ready to allow the ecology expansion or not?
At this point, there's no agreement from the property owner to sell the property to Recology. That's not, there's no agreement at this point in time. I understand there's discussions and ongoing negotiation, but there's no deal has been struck.
Okay. And the other thing is the Bayshore South side, you said there was an applicant who was very much interested in coming up with a proposal that just died down or what?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
The Bayshore, the one that very steep, there was a proposal that we said that particular side is not suitable for us?
The south end of Bayshore.
Bayshore, and you said that the developer is ready to come before us and make a presentation.
That was my thinking at the time. It sounds like that may be on hold. I'm not sure. They had not yet purchased the property, so there may have been financing issues. I'm not.
Because at that time, I thought that they were ready to make presentation any minute. So
right, and they were very active at the time, but I've seen
it's on hold.
Right.
I see.
Yeah, that's on hold.
Okay, the other one is the general plan. I know that we spent several years working on that with Bill Prince, and we came up with so many policies and procedures and all that. What happened to all that? Are we ever going to have that general plan?
That was one of the things we talked about with council in the budget session the other night or a couple of weeks ago. Again, the policy work was done. Bill's original intent, which was fine, but the timing didn't work out obviously very well, was to rely on the Baylands EIR to supply most of the technical environmental review of the general plan update, thinking that the Baylands constitutes 95% of the city's growth. So he really wasn't able to move forward to adopt that, lacking a CEQA document to support a general plan update in its entirety. And so in lieu of starting down a separate path to do that, I decided to wait until the EIR is published. So when the draft EIR now is out, that provides a basis to move forward on the general plan. It raises a lot of questions, though, because the world economically in other ways is quite different than it was when you went through that policy review now 5-6 years ago. So the council is going to have to decide how much of that work they want to revisit. Are they comfortable with it? For example, the sub-district that includes VWR, as I understand it, the Planning Commission had no recommendations to do anything with that because at that point in time, everyone thought VWR would be there forever, so there was no need to revisit that. So that's a for example that probably warrants a review, given where we are now versus where you were 5 years ago or 6 years ago when you looked at that all information. So I think that's something for the council is going to have to address how they want to move forward with that in terms of how much they want to reopen, refer it back to the commission. It was based on an opinion survey that dates back to 2005 as well, so a public, community survey. So the council is going to have to make some decisions as to how they want to revisit this and how they want to proceed. And again, with the Baylands kind of taking a little bit of the attention for the short term, that'll be later in the year. I think we'll be able to start that conversation.
But the state will not have any problem because we have not submitted the general plan for...
The only element you're obligated to update on a regular basis is the housing element, and we're current with that.
A number of policies were adopted at that time as a result of this review, and they were supposed to be turned into a Brisbane code. Is there any progress made on that?
You mean the housing element?
Not only the housing element, but a number of our policies in that general plan that were revised, and Bill was going to convert that into a Brisbane code and bring it before the council. Was there any?
Well, the short answer would be, since the plan never got adopted, none of those policies ever were adopted, so there's nothing actionable. We are doing that with the housing element policies. Again, we have an obligation, like we had an obligation to rezone property. We have a lot of other obligations. All those code amendments that Tim brought before you last year, those are winding their way through the council currently, and I think the next one that's going to be on their plate is going to be revisiting the parking, recommendations that you made last year. So that's going to be kind of an effort on their part. So that's ongoing.
I think my recommendation will be not to touch on the new policies until the ones that are in the mills are already processed through the council, because what happens is that we come up with something, it takes 3 years before it's adopted. So by that time, things are completely changed. Case in the point was the parking requirements. So I strongly, recommend that we should not come up, address any new policies until the ones that are there got approved. Thank you.
Is Tim Toon still working with the city at this point?
He still does work on these outstanding code cases.
So he's working on some currently?
He's following up on a couple. He has a couple that probably will revisit now that we have a new city attorney. A couple that we're holding off, not wanting to start until we had a new city attorney.
Okay. Any other items initiated by the commission?
I have none.
Okay, so at this time, item J is adjournment to the special meeting, Baylands Draft EIR Information Session on June 18th, 2013 at 7 o'clock p.m. Look forward to seeing everyone.
Come on down.
We can make a motion to adjourn, right?
So I'm making a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.